Okay, hello! Welcome back to Even More News, the first and only news podcast. My name is Katy Stoll.
Hi, Katy. I'm Cody. I'm also here with
Don't
me
you
and
dare.
you. I'm here as well. I'm here too.
Don't you steal his catchphrase.
In
Our
addition,
catchphrase
is
for...
me.
Because
Present in
Jonathan's
addition is me.
also
Jonathan's
here.
also here. Yes. Hello, Jonathan.
Hi.
Cool. Hi, guys.
Hey.
We're here. We're going to talk about the news this week.
We love it.
sure are.
We
For a
haven't
change.
for a week, so it's time.
Why not? Before we do that, we are going to celebrate a bit because I decided that.
Yeah.
And we've got some good ones today. October 4th, it's National Vodka Day.
It's Thursday.
Nobody knows who started it, but these days it seems to largely be celebrated by billionaire Ryan Reynolds.
Which vodka started this holiday?
I don't know. Jonathan?
Nobody knows. So
Nobody knows.
They must not have done a very good job.
Okay.
Okay, October 5th is National Do Something Nice Day. This is interesting.
Treat yourself to a vodka.
Treat yourself to a vodka, but I think it's do something nice for somebody else, unless it's do something nice for yourself, but it doesn't say that.
Oh, treat somebody else to a drink of vodka.
I want to say this is going to be a nice thing. When I'm in LA right now. Oh, elephant in the room. I'm in LA. I'm at the studio at the moment, and I feel the difference of how people interact between here and a small town where everybody makes eye contact and smiles and what have you and asks about your day. And sometimes I feel lonely when I come to Los Angeles and you spend your day walking around and you kind of ignore. Anyway, but I made it my beeswax to just kind of keep that energy this time. And I've been trying to smile at people and say, hi, good morning, and someone, this older woman said, thank you so much for smiling at me.
Isn't that nice?
Boy, she was like, I needed that. Thank you.
That's
So anyway,
nice.
very simple to do something nice.
It is. And be friendly.
They were a Jehovah's Witness, and they're here right now, and they haven't left me alone, but it was very
and they're
pleasant.
so nice.
Come on in, Betty. Anyway, do something nice. It'll make you feel better and a distraction from the hellscape that we're navigating always.
Oh, sure.
There was a friendly ghost that opened the door for me the other day, and I said that flippantly, and you're looking at me like this, but I stand by it. It's true.
I know
I'll tell you
it's
the
great.
story
No-
off of the
No
recording.
questions asked about that. I
This
always get
building
stuck
is
holding the
haunted.
door open for like 50 people. And then I keep track. They thanked me. This person didn't. This person didn't.
Exactly.
They think I'm the doorman now.
Okay, are you dying to know about the...
That ghost was dying to, I don't know,
I was trying to get in.
be
The
one.
building that I'm staying at, there's a fob, so you have to open every door
Mhm.
with a fob. And I was coming in from the parking garage. There's multiple doors you have to go through. I was wrangling giant suitcases and bags, but then I didn't have my keys, so I'm getting the keys open up to do the fob. And I open the door, and it starts to close as I'm getting everything. And I'm reaching for my suitcase, and it starts moving by itself into the doorway, and it stopped the door from closing on me. I swear to God, this happened 2 days ago.
Wait, your luggage rolled into the doorway?
Yeah, it did. In the garage, the parking garage.
But that's.
I'm not joking.
I know you're not joking.
It was
You're just
stopped.
describing something so mundane. that,
No,
like,
Cody, it's not.
Like your luggage was
Okay.
rolling and it rolled into the
Imagine-
door. There are wheels on the luggage.
Imagine these are my two luggages, and this one, I don't even have a hand on it. It's stopped still. The door
Okay.
that's 3 feet ahead of me is closing.
Okay.
This luggage starts to roll by itself through
By
the
itself.
door frame. Okay, by a ghost.
What's more reasonable, Cody?
That a ghost did it. And then
It's
last
the ghost
night,
one, Jonathan. It's the ghost
then
part.
last night, as I was taking Benny in from outside,
Mm-hmm.
I get in the elevator and by myself,
Mm-hmm.
and it stops at multiple floors that I didn't press, and there's just nobody there to get in.
Okay, I got
So
two
ghosts were
so
getting
two-
in the elevator
things.
with me.
So you're describing like
Why would they need
electrical
the elevator?
electrical
Because
Problems?
they like me. They wanted to hang out with me,
Also,
Jonathan.
Katy, you know for a fact that the elevators in that building are like going through maintenance right now.
No, that one.
Weeks of
Nope.
maintenance. They're
No,
fixing
that
the
one.
elevators right now.
That one's working.
Well, not Well enough, apparently, because it's
I
letting
rest my
ghosts
case.
on.
Hey, excuse
I rest my
me.
case. You've presented nothing.
Your luggage with wheels rolled, and then the elevator stopped at a floor.
Excuse me. I thought you were supposed to be nice to me on National Vodka Day.
I think there is a niceness to
If
acknowledging that maybe a ghost was not involved here, and maybe
there's any building that's haunted, it's this one, and you know it.
if there's any building that's haunted, it's that one. I think there are
And a lot of
way
other
more
ones,
buildings.
but this one too.
You're gonna
Way more
invite
buildings.
like an
You
exorcist to
know
this
it's
building.
a spooky ass building.
They're gonna get rid of all the ghosts, and the ghosts are gonna be like, never do anything nice. I held the door open for that lady, and she
This-
got me
how
exorcised
they
from this
get ya.
goddamn building. Never do anything
Look.
nice for people.
I said it's a friendly ghost. I see you, ghosts. I mean, I don't, but I get
Well,
it.
yeah, you don't, but
Okay, whatever. We've got some news to talk
no, I
about,
support
right?
you in this endeavor.
You obviously don't.
I can support you and also have my other theories about what happened.
So, a lot to talk about this week other than ghosts. And
I don't know anymore. Like I
We
feel
can
like
keep
I feel like
coming
all
back
the
to
information
it.
I've absorbed about the news has just like exited my brain.
Well, I've already rested my case. And,
That's true. That's true.
You guys can do with
Case
what.
closed.
I'm handing the duty over to Jonathan now because I've really been taking forever to get to the news part of this news show.
Well, let's start with the debate. Lot of thoughts, a lot of clips I've got we can show. From my perspective, Vance definitely seemed very polished, certainly more polished than Donald Trump. Lied an absurd amount of times, including about very like mundane, easily checkable things that there is video of and what have you.
Like brazen lies.
Yeah.
Like not like the politician like, oh, this is numbers off or whatever, but it's like brazen, like that's the opposite of either what you said or just reality.
Yeah, and we can go through some of these lies. I also thought Tim Walz did fine. I didn't like some of the, comments about war and what have you, and it seems to me like the Harris campaign has defanged him a little bit, like took away some of what
Yeah.
he was doing best.
I will agree with your thoughts in general here. You get mad at me. And you got it doesn't matter what the fuck I say, someone gets mad at me. So.
No, it's a nice day.
It's the truth. I'm either MAGA coded or I'm living in a liberal bubble, neither of which are me.
They can't coexist together.
That-
Maybe they
but
can.
also I'm neither of those things. However, when Vance was picked, I famously said on this show, I don't know if it was such a bad idea when I saw him speak at the RNC at first. Sure, he's a clown, but if deployed properly, could sanitize Donald Trump in a certain way. And people got mad at me when I said handsome. He's not handsome, but he's like a generally like white man, bearded face. He's not like Donald
guy.
Trump.
He's a guy.
He's a guy like young, all this stuff, and then he proceeded to act like a clown over and over and over again. Most of that's like online and in that sphere, so it's curious to see how much of that seeps into the general consciousness, which it seemed to be doing. And then this week at the debate, he performed in the way that when I first saw him up there, I was like, that could be a smart choice for this campaign. And so he seems to have turned it around, although back to being a clown online again the next day. But he was definitely much more polished than he has been. And I also agree with you about Walz. I mean, in the immediate, I was a little confused. Everyone was bashing on Walz, saying like, oh, he really did a bad job. He lost. I was like, I actually thought he did a pretty good job. He definitely left some stuff on the table. He definitely was so focused on being cordial and civil, which a lot of people seem to have appreciated of both of the men that night, but he wasn't following up in the way that he should have or pressing in the way that he should have. But outside of that, I continue to find him to be an eloquent man and charming. And at the end of the day, does it really move the needle? I don't know that it does.
It's not going to move the needle in terms of the general election, other than in the sense of like, you can see just in general polling of like, oh yeah, they are both more liked now. More people like Walz than did before. More people like J.D. Vance than did before. I think I don't even think I would have disagreed with you if you said like, oh, he'll like perform well in the debate. Because yeah, he's a debate guy. He's like there to do that. I found it to be pretty off-putting, a lot of the way he acts still, and that's just a personal thing, I guess. Because I think
I feel the same way. I find him
What do you mean
way-
specifically?
to be a
the way he
sniveling
talks.
worm.
He talks like a sniveling worm.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not even just knowing the lies. Like when he says something that I know is like, well, I know for a fact that that's a lie, and you do too. Even putting that aside, there's a way he talks that is smarmier than a lot of standard politician smarm. And it's just very off-putting to me. And I don't know. It's kind of even hard to describe, but just like,
I mean, he's off-putting to me too. I just don't find him to be smarmier than. I mean, I guess I do because I know him to be so different than the persona he presented.
he's such a
But
fraud.
I
It's just,
try.
yeah.
I don't know how I've been doing this. I think it's maybe a not desensitization over the years, but like I've been enraged for so long about these clowns. But there's something that's different, probably also because of where I moved to, where I'm able to temper down some of this, and I'm trying to just look at it like somebody who doesn't know as much as I do about it. And I didn't find him to be, but maybe I'm wrong. If I rewatched it, I could second guess myself.
It's your
but like,
personal opinion.
no,
you know?
I just think that, yeah, I agree with you. I'm not sure that other people would say that he's smarmier, because I think a lot of politicians are, and like, they just accept that politicians have that like energy, and that, you know, that they're going to lie on stage. They're like, oh, it's, you know, they accept that at this point. But yeah, he fucking sucks.
He's
He
just
is
like,
smarmy.
it's this inauthenticity that he can't even fake. And
Except for that moment when Walz said that his son witnessed a shooting.
Well, I think all the parents watching tonight, this is your biggest nightmare. Look, I got a 17-year-old, and he witnessed a shooting at a community center playing volleyball. Those things don't leave you.
That did seem to hit
It was
Vance
the closest.
a little bit.
It was the closest to genuine. Probably
It was genuine. I thought, like, you could see there was a moment where you see him like look really surprised, and there was like a flash of the dad coming through or something.
Well, I think
Unless that
there's-
was all a
it's a
performance too, which I'm
It's a
sure
flash
it is
of
to
the
a degree.
person that he like maybe actually is or used to be.
Because
We
yeah,
see a lot of the letters that like, or the messages he sent with his
Yes.
like, old trans friend, and
Yeah.
just like who he was, and calling Trump America's Hitler. All these things that he recognized, and probably does see is going on. But at a certain point, he made his decision, and he's sold whatever he has inside of him to this project. And so I think instances like that are like, oh yeah, you're sorry, buddy. This is the decision you made.
Yeah.
I do think it's there is just on a personal level. I just find like, I just don't like how he talks.
Sure.
He's
And
such a
that's-
fraud. I thought Walz did a decent job. Again, it's like he said in his interview with Harris to become the vice presidential pick, I'm not good at debates. He told her like up front, like, I'm not very good at debates. She obviously didn't seem to mind, because also debates don't really matter for the
doesn't
VP.
matter. Yeah.
But my main issue, I think, was like, and I understand people being like, oh, you know, everyone loves the togetherness, and everyone's so nice. When you have Trump up there, he's so negative, and we don't like when Vance is negative online and stuff. So it's nice to have everybody be nice to each other. I found it really, to borrow a phrase that I guess has been retired, weird that that went on. I know there was like internal reporting about Biden's advisors basically being like to the Kamala Harris campaign, like, stop saying we're not going back. It's not forward thinking enough, which I think is absurd, and stop with the weird stuff. And Jonathan, to what you were saying, I think there is an element of like, they have been tamping down on him, which again is weird, because the thing that made him popular and famous across the nation is going after the weirdness and creepiness of these people and the party. He was one of the first, if not one of the only, like, politicians on a national level to use the word fascist to describe the Republican Party, to describe J.D. Vance and his way of thinking. And I found it off-putting and weird to be watching this debate and have this guy who's like, yeah, they're fascists. We don't we're not scared of fascists. We laugh at fascists. To be like, I think this guy's great. I think you believe that. I think you like really, we agree on a lot of stuff. Like all that
I think
stuff.
this guy's great, but
whatever he said, you know what I mean? Like
He's
there's like
like,
an
we
element of
agree
like
on a
we
lot of
agree on a lot of
things
stuff, and I believe that you believe that, but I don't believe
another
Donald Trump
tactic
believes
to
that.
go after the people that are on the cusp.
But
Like
I
to say
think
like,
it was
hey,
a
we're not that
mistake.
far apart.
I think it was
Yeah.
a mistake too.
The one thing
I do too.
Because Walz throughout this whole thing would look over and he would nod and he'd say, oh yeah, I think there's a lot of agreement here. And true, there's agreement with that idea that JD Vance just said.
With
but
the lies
one-
that JD is
right,
saying.
One,
that he
you know
thinks, yeah.
that's not their policy. And two, you know he's full of shit because he had the exact opposite position. The whole debate was JD Vance being like, I'm more liberal than you think I am. And Tim Walz saying, we love Cheney and like I'm more of a
It would have
Republican.
been
It was so
totally
bizarre.
And
That's the energy. That's the energy of this campaign of the Harris Walz campaign for sure. And
Yeah.
I guess that's the new energy, or at least that night. But like, it would have been a different way to say it. Would have been like, if that's what you actually meant, I would agree with you. But I'm gonna have to push back and say XYZ. You can still be gracious and like keep his energy that we
Yeah.
all love about him. Like I
Yeah, he's
do.
a
I like
he's a
that
positive
he's
guy.
a positive guy.
Yeah.
And I get that that's part of what he brought to the table that night. But like, you can do that while also holding the other person to account.
You called him
like,
a fascist.
Can I
What are you
get you
doing?
to commit to saying that you're going to support in vitro fertilization or whatever it is that's so wildly different? Can we get that in writing, please? That
Well,
you,
he did that
you
at
know?
the end. Like the biggest
Yeah.
moment of the debate was when he said, I don't think this is good enough for me. Because this stood out and it took, 90 minutes almost?
He is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is
Has she tried to-
that is a damning non-answer.
I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris?
Used to
I
do
know,
this
so they
thing.
had-
Right.
No, I know. Yeah.
His whole other thing was like, you guys are harping on this, but the real threat to democracy is, I guess, Twitter files stuff is the only thing
Twitter
I
file
can
stuff.
think that he was talking about, which also happened before Kamala Harris was vice president.
Which is also something that Donald Trump did.
Right.
Let's be real.
The Trump
Let's-
White House and the Biden campaign both reached out to Twitter to take
Yeah.
stuff down, which they did. And one was the Trump White House and one was the Biden campaign. And yet,
But only one was reported on.
and that's the whole thing of like JD Vance trying to like I'm going to be slick. Like I'm focused on the future. Meanwhile, here's this thing that happened 5 years in the past that is
in the
irrelevant.
same breath.
Exactly. So this is sort of what it like kind of like about his great performance. It's like, yeah, he competently lied his ass off calmly, which I guess is what you need to do at a debate. But like,
Yeah,
it's one of those things
I mean-
like watching that, even just that 16 seconds of like, did he lose? I'm not, well, here's the thing, folks. Like, it's just so gross to watch. And I think he's really bad at it because I can watch that and go, but he didn't answer the question. And all night, it's that stuff. All night,
But
will.
I think a debate is mostly just about how you handle yourself and how
Sure.
confidently you pivot and make a word salad. And I do think that that's true across the board always.
I don't know about that. I think you can.
He did about as best as he could do with all of this. He didn't let Walz get under his skin at all.
Well, right.
with
That's
this.
the thing.
He just kept bringing it back to his point. And I guess the point that I'm making is, not to us, obviously, because we don't like the man. We're not voting for the man. But for people, a lot of people, they probably just say like, well, he handled himself well up there.
Right. It was sanitized. Like Tim Walz agreeing with him throughout and being like, oh, yeah, well, you said you care about child care and making it easier to start families. Like, he doesn't and won't do any
Right.
of that. But because he said it, you agree with it. And now you've sanitized Trump. And you've
Trump,
sanitized
exactly.
the fascism. You've sanitized
You've
all this
sanitized
stuff.
America's Hitler. His words.
And I don't really blame Tim Walz for this that much because I'm sure he's got a lot of prep. I mean, he has agency, and I think he could have done better at attacking those messages and attacking the lies. But I think a lot of people, Katy, I think you're right, that people can watch this and be like, oh, okay, maybe I can vote for Trump. Maybe it's not that
normal.
bad. This guy seems like a normal guy who's going to keep him in check. I like the stuff that Trump wants to do and wish he wasn't such a maniac on stage ranting about pets and whatnot. And that's not that this debate has moved the needle or would, but like if a few people in a few key states believe that they can exhale and vote for Trump now, that's bad.
Yeah.
So the first question of the night at the debate was, well, there was a big lead-in and introduction to this question, but the question was, would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran? So the backdrop to this is that Israel...
Love the framing of this whole...
...invaded a country this week. Israel invaded Lebanon. This preceded a missile attack from Iran on Israel.
That didn't come out of nowhere? That didn't just happen for no reason? These are all related. These are all related events. It doesn't happen in a vacuum.
I guess we can say that the broader regional war started, or if it hasn't started yet, they invaded. There's ground troops. They did it.
Don't know what else you need to qualify as a war.
They're bombing Beirut and its suburbs where people live.
People do live in the suburbs.
Did you see that CNN, it was Jim Sciutto who was reporting from Tel Aviv, and he is, there's missiles, kind of being intercepted and falling behind him.
Among the targets were Israeli airfields, but also, and this is crucial, the headquarters of Mossad, the International Intelligence Service of Israel, which is inside Tel Aviv. It's in the northern part of Tel Aviv, but it's in the city. It's in a densely populated area. And of course, the concern is if you're firing, even though Iran might consider that a military target, it is in a densely populated city with civilians around it. And that's just one more layer of escalation.
There you go. That's the problem we all have. People have been pointing this out online, but yeah, man, it's wild. This is what we've been saying for a year now.
I mean... God.
Israel has been bombing heavily populated areas in Gaza for a year. And the excuse is, well, we have no other choice but to do that. That's the military target. They've embedded themselves in the population. It's human shields. But if Mossad headquarters is in Tel Aviv, we're not going to give, not that they should, by the way, like my position is not, it's everyone's human shields and everyone's fair
right.
game.
Let's do it.
My position is don't bomb civilians regardless. And it just really highlights how absurd
especially if you don't want a regional war.
Ta-Nehisi Coates is doing like a tour basically for his book. And there are a lot of very telling interviews that sort of give, it reminds me of this, where it's just like there's a side being told and it is the story and it happens in a vacuum. And unless there's like things that like, a Palestinian did this or whatever that you can like kind of bring into the argument to bolster the story that you're trying to tell about how Israel can do no wrong. And this is all very good, what's going on. And he has been doing an amazing job just sort of calmly dismantling this and sort of even just pointing that out, that like there is, I don't need to say all this stuff. That's the story that everybody's being told. Everyone talks about this. What I'm trying to do is tell this untold story about the situation that Palestinians are going through. And that situation is apartheid. It is this occupation. It is this ethnic cleansing going on. And that story is not really told unless it's, passive. There's always it's always told passively as like an unavoidable thing, as this is sort of, that's just how it is. And it's just very, I just wanted to sort of point that out. If you haven't seen any of those interviews, go check them out. They're very good and enlightening for a lot of people. I think they're enlightening.
I do think like the one that was it CBS This Morning that he was
on
a
morning show when the guy was like, so why are you a terrorist?
I have to say, when I read the book, I imagine if I took your name out of it, took away the awards and the acclaim, took the cover off the book, the publishing house goes away, the content of that section would not be out of place in the backpack of an extremist.
Called him a terrorist.
And then the other part of that interview was when the guy said, so Palestinians don't have any agency in their own apartheid. He didn't say that, but Palestinians don't have any agency in this. And the way he was able to deftly negotiate that and stay calm. We're here on this podcast like, God, this drives me nuts. But he's just like,
either apartheid is right or it's wrong. It's really, really simple. Either what I saw was right or it's wrong. I am, for instance, against the death penalty. What the person did to get the death penalty, it really doesn't matter to me. I don't care if they were selling a nickel bag of marijuana or if they were a serial killer. I am against the death penalty. I am against a state that discriminates against people on the basis of ethnicity. I'm against that. There is nothing the Palestinians could do that would make that okay.
And it's very hard to combat that with the logical tricks or the euphemisms that get so often used in this conflict.
I was just sort of baffled watching it. It's like, this is a morning show, and he's like, why are you a terrorist? And like, if I were to, like, again, we're paraphrasing, but that's the underlying message that was being delivered by his questions. And yeah, it's very, he's like, yeah, I have a very moral compass on this. I don't know what to tell you, you know?
Well, I thought it was interesting because the question to pose to Walz and Vance was, would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel and Iran? And Walz didn't answer. It's a debate. You don't answer the question. You say what you want to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, the U.S. needs to support Israel, but also the suffering in Gaza needs to stop. Trump would be awful at this. He's terrible in an international crisis. Okay. I would have liked to have heard more, but that's what I expected. Yeah. And then Vance talked about, because it was the first question.
I mean, that's the best they got. I
Right.
thought Trump would be worse.
And
Well, they can't. Yeah, exactly.
And J.D. Vance was like, well, I want to tell people about my background first. I came from a working class family. I served in Iraq. And then at the very end, he goes, but I want to answer your question. I think whatever Israel wants to do is fine by me. You know, it was a whatever makes sense for
Whatever
Israel to
makes
do. It's up to
sense.
them. Like, what do you
Whatever
want me to
makes
do with that?
sense.
They
They don't
blow
really
up
want to
everyone?
touch this topic with a 10-foot pole. There's no
Neither
upside
of
to
them
it for
do.
anybody.
Yeah.
Democrats, okay, so you come out against, like, they're not going to. They're alienating their progressive base and worried about being called something else for, anti-Semitic or something for going against. Or they just want this to be happening, and Donald Trump will position himself, however, I'm going to end this war as soon as I get into office, but then can say, like, yeah, there's.
I mean,
not,
he wants to flatten that whole area. He would not like bat
he wants
an
the credit
eye
of
at that
ending the
happening.
war to do it. My theory is that Netanyahu's going to get as much done as he can now before the election and in between, and Donald Trump can say that he helped a peace deal, but it's not going to be anything that helps Palestinians.
Oh yeah, it won't be a peace
and
deal. It won't be.
It's, and Netanyahu doesn't want to give Biden, not that I think Biden's chomping at the bit.
Well, Biden doesn't care. There's this reporting even, I forget, it's from like a day or two. Biden told confidants that he did not believe his Israeli counterpart wanted a ceasefire deal, arguing that Netanyahu was trying to perpetuate the conflict to save his political future and assist Trump in November's election, the officials said. Then do anything else that you're doing. It's just this, like, again, it's just very frustrating to see for a year be like, well, he doesn't want a deal. They're not doing a ceasefire deal. You can say, we're working day and night for a ceasefire deal. No, you're not. They don't want it. You're not doing that. And every time, like, well, Hamas rejected the deal. Did they, or did Israel reject the deal because they don't actually want the deal? Every step of the way, all this, and just like saying like over and over, just stop telling everybody we're working tirelessly for a deal. Say that you don't think he wants one. Obviously there are political reasons and ideological reasons, I think, for Biden specifically, maybe not to say that, but it's endlessly frustrating, especially to see that they know that that's not on the table, but they still have to be like, well, Israel's the right to defend itself, and the death in Gaza, we're so sad about it. We need to do everything we can to stop it, but also we're going to send weapons continually, and we're not going to call out the fact that they don't want the deal.
We should move on to other topics, right? Because we still have a lot to get through.
Yeah, we'll move on to other topics.
Abortion. So frustrating.
His lies? His many lies?
His many lies.
And he did answer this about as well as he could have, given all the bullshit that he said. Again, lies. I don't believe any of it. But up there on that stage, a lot of his answers satisfied the people that don't like liberals, don't like Donald Trump, especially don't like what, they don't hate him the way we do. They're like, but the abortion stuff is really bad. Nobody likes the abortion stuff. Nobody likes what's happening. But the vague promises of like, no, we want to regain your trust. We want to fix.
Yeah, it was effective for the rubes, yes.
Yeah, well.
No offense, I know, but
I don't like
just...
that. Look, I'm not, it's fine. I don't give a shit. Like my people that I know, I just don't think that that's a helpful way of looking at it. Like, we can't just assume everybody's an idiot.
I'm not saying everyone's an idiot. I'm saying he was talking to the rubes. He's saying, like, for 8 years, Donald Trump, it's like 8 years ago, he said, yeah, women should be punished for having abortions.
Yeah.
And here we are. He's like, well, we got to earn back the trust. It's just lies. You can look up so many things. It's so obviously lying. And like, I understand. I'm
just trying to make the point that he actually did about as good of a job with that question as he could have, given the bed that he himself made by lying.
But tonally, he comes off as so, to me, extremely disingenuous. Like, if you believe him, and I want to play, we don't have to watch this whole thing, but if you listen to him, it sounds not just completely different from everything the Republican Party has stood for decades, but now that it's politically unpopular, he's trying to pretend that that was never what we wanted to do. And this is all about options and choice. So,
well, yeah, that's exactly what Donald Trump is doing. He's trying to adopt Donald Trump's spin that he's been spinning.
Well, there's so many things going on. I am not like everyone's a fucking idiot. But if you listen to Vance and live in reality, and you're actually concerned about things that Trump said and concerned about the abortion thing, and you hear this and you're like, wow, they're really like, they're doing good on this.
I just think that we're making false assumptions of people, that we just really don't understand the way people are approaching this and thinking, I think, fundamentally. But let's watch.
If you believe like a series of lies by a liar, then that is what
they think. They think all of them are always lying. The most generous way to interpret this is that we're in real time watching them being like, whoops, we f***ed up, we need to backtrack. And that's enough for some people.
And I want to talk about this issue because I know a lot of Americans care about it, and I know a lot of Americans don't agree with everything that I've ever said on this topic.
It's this kind of stuff. You're not going to agree with everything I've said. Say the things that you've said. Say them out loud. Like, remind us. What are the things? Like, it's this like, you may not agree with me. No, I know he's trying to distance himself, but like, if you're watching this, you're like, wow, he's like changed his mind. Look at what he has said. It's like, you may not agree with everything I've said. What did he say? Oh, he said this. Oh, that. Wow, he's changed his mind drastically.
I actually think he said. Didn't he say, I know some of you don't agree with the things I've said, which is slightly different than you may. I know some of you may not. It's actually, but. God, I hate how often I'm in a position when I'm trying to like break it down that I sound like I'm defending this monster, because I don't like him, and I do agree with what you're saying.
At a certain point, I'm just fed up with it, and I can't like.
I get it.
I understand. Some days I'm more understanding,
off.
empathetic, and some days I'm like, write him off. I don't give a shit. Look at this liar.
Well, you need these people.
I mean, we do. We
need the people to vote. Some amount of them to vote for us instead of that guy.
Sure.
And like, it doesn't matter. We don't wish ill will on them. So this
Katy,
is half
we have
of our
Dick
country
Cheney.
effectively.
We're fine.
I'm just saying, like, one way or another, we all have to figure out how we work as an entire nation with people that we disagree with.
That's what I'm saying. Is J.D. Vance is like, I'm so compassionate to all the women in this country whose reproductive rights I have to take. And then Tim Walz is like, we got Scaramucci, you know? Like, what are we doing here?
All right, keep pressing play.
The whole thing is a disaster. Sorry.
I grew up in a working class family in a neighborhood where I knew a lot of young women who had unplanned pregnancies and decided to terminate those pregnancies because they feel like they didn't have any other options. And, you know, I one of them is actually very dear to me. And I know she's watching tonight, and I love you.
Pause it. Sorry, two things. So you know a lot of women have done that, and one of them is dear to you? Okay.
What? I actually don't know what's wrong with that.
I just think it's like I know a lot of women. One of them is dear to me. Okay, you know.
Well, I would say the exact same thing. I would say, maybe not the exact same thing, but the phrase of like, I know lots of people that have had this experience, and one of my best friends, in fact, went
well,
through
that's
this.
not what he said, though.
But it's one of them is very dear to me. Anyway, I think that that's
I don't care about this. I'm not like, this is the thing that made me. I like clowning on Vance because I think he sucks and he's a bullshit artist that's bad at it. But
personally,
also,
I actually personally thought
said,
like, oh, look at him sharing a personal story when I watched that. So maybe I'm the right.
I'm 50-50 on whether or not it's even true. But him saying I love you don't talk like that, man. You've never said "yeah" in your. What are you doing?
And she told me something a couple years ago that she felt like if she hadn't had that abortion, that it would have destroyed her life because she was in an abusive relationship. And I think that what I take from that as a Republican who proudly wants to protect innocent life in this country, who proudly wants to protect the vulnerable, is that my party, we've got to do so much better of a job at earning the American people's trust back on this issue where they frankly just don't trust us. And
I genuinely appreciated that answer to a degree. I don't believe it, but I was like what you just did was call out that women are in abusive relationships and that she does not regret her abortion choice, and him saying that we have to do better. I'm like, yeah, appreciates the wrong
I was going to say,
word.
like, you don't have to appreciate it. He's lying.
Appreciates the wrong word. I would love to see the Republican Party do those things.
But
he
yes.
won't.
Like,
He
that's
won't.
the point. Like, he's scum because
It's a fascist party
he
of
is-
weirdos.
He is pretending. He's like, we've got to earn back your trust. How? Are you changing any of your positions?
So-
oh, no. In fact, if you have a medically necessary abortion in one of these states, you might die. We're not changing anything about that. Sorry, but I
you can
Right.
move.
I really want to earn your trust. Like, he's a lying scumbag.
Especially, and like, to be clear, as you continue to watch this and as this section of the debate unfolds, and he's saying like, bringing it to states' rights. And it's like, well, this is the problem though, is that these states have these incredibly repressive laws and women are dying. And then he says, and that shouldn't have happened. That woman should still be alive. But he's not saying walking back the situation, the mess that they created. I agree with all of that. But I just want to say, like, acknowledging on the stage that there are women in abusive relationships and that woman's life, she doesn't regret her abortion. Like, there are a lot of conservative voters who probably were like, yeah, I know a woman in an abusive relationship. They can relate to that. I think that is a good thing in general to be acknowledging on a debate stage. And again, I don't believe a damn word from him anyway. I don't know if I'm making myself clear. I'm just inviting all the, go ahead, call me MAGA, you f***s.
No, that's not what, I mean, maybe
Not
you're
you.
saying that, but like, it's this kind of like, I know you're not giving the benefit of the doubt, but like, okay, it's good that he said that because I just don't think it's good for these fascist liars to be up on stage and say like the right thing in service of their project.
Of course not, but all politicians
it's ultimately
do that,
way
but...
more damaging to sanitize what they're doing and what's going on and who they are and what scumbags they are than to be like, oh, that's a good point. I like that he said that.
Well, he had to make those points specifically because he had to say the thing about women in abusive relationships because he previously intimated that they should stay in those relationships for the benefit of children. And then after this, he got called out on supporting a national abortion ban, and he said he never supported a national abortion ban, which is a lie.
Absolutely. Look, I agree with what everything
I'm not arguing with you.
You're
I'm just saying.
Yeah, no,
I know
yeah.
you're not, but like, and it's bad. But like, I am listening, and I'm hearing your point, Cody, about you. Correct me if I'm getting this wrong, but you would prefer him to go up on stage and stick to the talking points that he has been, right? Like, because like what he's doing up there is an about face, and I mean, sure, that would be the best for us if he did that, but also the most honest. But I am just saying, I'm just trying to make the point that outside of politics, outside of who's running and what's happening, I want us to be at a point where we're all, both sides, acknowledging that there are women being abused right now in our communities and people that we know dealing with this and having the pressure of this impossible choice, victims of rape and abuse. And there is something, I think, good about him saying that just for society at large, because there's some people at home that are, so part of the cult that can see that and maybe recognize that more. And this is outside of who
I mean,
people are voting.
if that's the case, and like somebody,
that's when I
somebody
just wanted to...
who is like big hardcore MAGA and saw and like wasn't like aware of this or like kind of opened their eyes to something because JD Vance specifically said that is good. I just think that...
maybe it gives them permission to admit it because it's all this cult of personality, this cult of politics. So maybe there are some people, I'm not saying that moves, but
JD Vance is on that
Of
stage
course.
in service of an abuser, of an
I know.
abuser of women who is
Absolutely.
a rapist, and
I agree.
he doesn't care about that. That's why I think he's scum, and I don't like anything he says up on stage. Even it's like, well, that would be good for people to hear. I'm over it being like, I just don't care. And maybe I'll change my mind tomorrow and be like, oh, it's good and this. But
It's
he
a
is
perfectly
such a
fine
lying
feeling to have.
scumbag.
That is a perfectly reasonable and
especially-
understandable reaction to have. I'm not dismissing that in any capacity. Again, I just feel so like observing it in a way
No, I
when
know.
I'm watching
But
this.
if you're up
And
on
I'm just
stage and you're
saying,
like, vote for Donald Trump, an abuser of women, a serial abuser of women, for decades of his life, and be like, oh, my friend was abused, and that was real bad. Fuck that person.
Right.
That guy's a scumbag.
And again, just flat out denying and lying, saying that he never supported an
All this
national
stuff,
abortion ban.
yeah.
It's just like clownish. We all get it. And there are some people that was effective
I
for.
do, and I don't want to dismiss that point, because I do think, again,
I mean,
like,
they
yeah, if somebody has
wants to
realized
believe
something
that
or
he's learned
anything
from this.
but at the same time, there's this element of like, oh wow, finally a Republican says that. I guess I can vote for the Republican Party, which is all in service of this serial abuser of women.
Well, again,
so,
I don't think that
like,
anybody is being won over by the VP debate. I just think people can feel better about their choices or worse about them or whatever.
But I don't want people to feel better about their choice of voting for
Yeah.
Trump.
No, I know.
I don't want them to do it at all, but they should feel really
I know,
bad.
but
They should feel
that
bad
was
about it.
his job up there, right?
Exactly. Like, that-
both of them, their jobs were like, what else can I do to help my team? Obviously, I don't want them to do well at this.
The other thing that I had a hard time thinking of a minute ago is he was trying to show compassion to make up for the time when he said it was just, he called it inconvenient to be impregnated via rape.
Yeah, it's just like stuff like that. Like, it's like I hate this man. And it's just I just like any sort of like, oh, this I shut down, because nothing he says is trustworthy, and he is like, he called him America's Hitler for a reason. And at a certain point he decided, you know what? I'm on that team. I'm on America's Hitler's team. And that's just who he is and what he decided to do. So fuck that guy. What a liar. He said that couples should abusive relationships stay together for the kids. That's what are you talking about? It's an abusive relationship. Do you think that's not going to be abusive to the children too? Do you? I just
I could
so
keep
bad.
talking about this, but I think we should move on to Helene before
We
run
100%
out of time.
should
here.
and can.
We don't have very much time, not as much as we should be devoting to this.
Yeah.
Hurricane Helene hit the U.S. last week. The worst devastation was in western North Carolina, where 30 inches of rain fell in a short period of time, causing massive flooding. More than 180 people have died so far across 6 states.
That we know of, yeah.
Yes, there are still hundreds more missing. There are still areas that
missings.
are just being, that people are just getting to. Again, hundreds of thousands of people with no power, no gas or water for days. As of yesterday, I don't know what the updated number, and it'll be out of date by the time anyone hears this, but 1.3 million people were still without power as of Wednesday afternoon. And of course, it's being very, clearly politicized so far of what is it? Trump is saying that Biden's bungled the response and isn't sending aid. In the few days after a disaster, well, first of all, you have to wait for the waters to recede. Asheville, North Carolina was unreachable for a couple days. Now, obviously, there's been a federal disaster declaration. They've got 1,000 active duty soldiers going in there to help distribute aid. And it's just really sad how even this, I don't want to romanticize the old days of disasters happening.
Disasters of old. Yeah.
The idea, though, is okay, well, this is the basic purpose of government, is something happens, we have resources, we're going to rush aid there.
We all
we're not
pull together.
immediately
We come together as a society and a community.
Right. And there's a lot of ways to criticize Joe Biden, but within 24 hours, they were trying to manipulate a quote where he said he wasn't going to do any more, which didn't happen. Of course, they're rushing aid, and it's... I don't know.
Yeah, it's there's you don't want Joe Biden on the ground in the middle of the aftermath of you don't want any president, especially not Joe Biden. But
the governor literally said, "Don't come here.
Don't
yet.
come here.
I
It's
will
a
let him
distraction.
know when it's time to come."
People are in immediate danger. There's no infrastructure. Infrastructure has been literally wiped out, washed out.
People have lost
Power,
their
water.
homes.
People have lost entire homes. People are drowned in their homes. People need to be rescued from trees. It's beyond the imagination. Sorry, I can't. I've been watching all these videos of people all week, and it's really fucked up. It's so scary. And like people, I just tried to, I can't type on this app that we use, but I was trying to find the elevation of Asheville. This shouldn't have happened. This is an unprecedented. I'm preaching to the choir. We all know this, but it is the kind of extreme weather phenomenon that perfectly encapsulates. To bring it into the debate, climate change, and that is how they framed it at the debate. Do I want to go into this? There's so much I could say about this. People that didn't have flood, people don't have this kind of homeowners insurance. They shouldn't have to have flood insurance. And we're going to do an episode on this soon, but we have a really horrific insurance problem that's looming in this country. And our disaster insurance is skyrocketing and people can't afford it. People can't afford to have their homes insured. And then we're up on there right after, as it's happening, mocking people that don't have it, and or mocking people that didn't evacuate when it wasn't expected to come there. But also, even if it was, telling people to leave is so privileged.
Just sell your homes and move.
Like, to just move, or just pack up and get the gas, get all of your animals, get everything you need, pack up and go spend as much money for months in some other location.
And then when you come back, you'll have beachfront property. You know,
what is wrong with you people? Not you guys, and probably not, but I'm sure some.
No,
people
I've been
that
saying
listen to
all
this,
of that, so fuck me.
No, I'm sick about it.
Yeah.
And of course, I want all the aid and everything possible to go to people, and I want us to be helping them. But it doesn't help to just to be immediately politicizing. This is the opportunity for all of us to come together. And then we have people like Margaret Killjoy. Ironically, I don't know how this happened, but I did 2 parts on her show. Cool people who did cool stuff. And we talked about Katrina and how the grassroots organizations from the ground up saved so many lives, but also FEMA actively learned from people on the ground, activists, and there's reports going around of like how they learned about what works from grassroots organization and how they begin to implement that into their disaster plans. There's so much that's happening. Margaret spent her own money and went and drove around to the places that she knew people, and like, you should check her out online and see what she's been sharing about the actual on the ground disaster efforts, because it's beyond inspiring. It'll make you feel a little bit better, even if it's hopeless feeling. But this is an opportunity. These aren't people that are saying like, who are you voting for? No, they're out there helping each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
that's where the
I
real
do feel very
humanity-
emotional about this. It's like,
Yeah.
and if any of
It's
you are out
more
there
and more
affected
worse and
by
worse all
this,
the time.
I love you very much. I am thinking about you a lot.
I'm lamenting that this always gets tied into politics, and I'm about to do that. But because, like,
Well, that's the show.
that is the
right
show.
now.
But like on the ground in these situations is where the real humanity is, of where people are not asking each other, who are you voting for in a month, before they like help each other, because they're all part of this devastated community. And that's why it's so enraging when a report that came out today where former Trump White House officials say he asked them, you know, how a community voted. Did they vote for him before he was going to send disaster aid? He didn't want to sign papers to send, and it's, you know what? It's stupid that the president needs to sign federal papers to rush disaster aid.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
It's like, yes, aid.
He has to look at it first. But he refused to sign disaster aid for fire-ravaged communities in California because he was like, oh, California, they didn't vote for me. And they had to prove to him that there are Republicans in California. Hey, there are more Republicans in Orange County, California, who voted for you than in the entire state of Iowa. That's how density works. And so this idea that, you know, and like, you know, it's Joe Biden, who cares? But like, he's going to do that basic bottom floor
matter
level
what.
of government where you send
No
the
matter
stupid
what.
aid, you know, whether or not North
Because he's
Carolina
not a president
goes for,
just for Democrats.
Because he's
None
not.
of them. No president is supposed to be a president for their party only.
That's like
which
the
is the problem
basic
with
thing.
Donald Trump. But that is the thing about Donald Trump entirely, is that he doesn't. Who paid for me to be in office? Who's going to pay for my reelection? Okay.
Right, because it's not even about like the party; it's about him. No other president, probably, but him, has that mindset. There is just a thing. Yeah, a president. Like obviously, you got policies you disagree with, but every person is an American citizen. And we take care of those people when there are disasters. Maybe we do a bad job, but like we're not discerning in that way. And it just is an obvious thing we know about Trump, and we've known about it forever. Everybody knows that about him. But it's really grotesque to see that like huge glaring flaw in him as a human being just be devastating for people. Like it emanates and it does affect people's lives in very, very real ways because he's solely focused on himself. And even if you're like, well, I hate the swamp or the deep state, he doesn't give a shit about any of that unless it keeps him protected. He doesn't give a shit about you or anyone who voted for him unless they're going to make sure to vote for him again, or unless they would do this or this or this. It's just about him, and it's so gross. Just I don't know. Even even JD Vance probably would be like, well, obviously, like, yeah, it's the California, like there are Republicans in California. It's just such a also like,
and even if there
so
weren't,
much to him, even if there weren't, obviously, but like it speaks so much to him as a not just as a vacuum, as just the most selfish human being in the world, and this sort of monstrous narcissist. Not just that, but also like what an incurious, stupid man. Of course, there are Republicans in California. What?
No,
do you understand
he didn't know
anything? He didn't know. It's just like it's all these things. Like you don't want that guy in charge, even if you do like some of his policies or like how he's extremely racist. If you love the cat eating thing he said, okay, he doesn't care about you. He will spit on you in your face if it gets him an extra day in the White House.
Right on it.
I swear to God, I can't believe you, Katie. He would though. He would hawk
I was
right
agreeing
on it.
with you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm trying to think if there's any other. Because we know like Nixon and Reagan's
Jackson, I don't know,
racist, all these
like,
people, but there's no other president I can think of where every private conversation, where every personal story that someone shares is about them being a like inhuman monster. Every story that they're like, oh, I worked with him for 3 days and he was the worst person I'd ever met. John Kelly said he was the most flawed person I ever met. What? Like every single person. Oh yeah, he said that my disabled kid should maybe just die. He said we shouldn't help those dying Americans because they maybe didn't vote for me. Like every single story that comes out about this guy he is a unique brand of
get
evil.
Puerto Rico
grotesque
throwing
monster.
the toilet paper.
Right,
That's
it was a photo op.
Yeah.
A photo op for him to toss the toilet paper. Ugh.
I think we did it, you guys. I think
do.
Bad guys.
we figured out the election.
We did.
Hey, you know what, everyone?
Hi.
You're cute and nice. Like and subscribe. Leave a little comment on the YouTube video.
Like and subscribe in the comments.
Good ones, please. Or bad.
Put like and
guess.
subscribe in the comments.
Yeah, sure. If you want, engagement counts.
Hit that little notification
but most
bell.
importantly, whether you do that or don't do that, do that.
No matter what.
We love you very much.
Very much.